Gentlemen, welcome, Doug Wing. How you doing, brother?
Ken, how are you? I'm doing great.
Dude, I am doing really wonderful. Let me go. Hold on, I got to share this out. Hold on, hold the line. Say hello to everybody as they come in. I'm going to grab this link and I'm going to share this. Oops, wrong one. Hold on. I'll be there in just a second. Just bear with me. Bear with me. So Doug, we're here tonight to talk about um, your new book coming out soon. Very, very soon, actually. Next week. Is it next week?
Next week, the third book.
Next week. It's
Yeah,
crazy, dude.
thought I'd do this 3 times, but still had a few stories to tell. So yeah, next
So
week,
crazy.
March 5th.
So your new book coming out. Let's pop this thing. We're gonna pop the whole series of books up on the screen right quick. First, let's. Oh, hold on. Oh, there's a picture of you and I in the background in front of the little giant ladders plant
Mm-hmm.
in in Salt Lake,
Where
or
are you?
in no
Provo. Yeah,
Provo. I knew that.
Provo area. Yeah.
I knew that. And this is saying it's not connected to. Man, if this screws this up, I'm gonna.
Don't get upset. We can.
Well, I just want to. I don't know why it's not streaming to those pages. Well, anyway, so you have. I don't know if people can still hear us while I have that up on screen. Um, but giant success. The Giver.
Yes.
Giving Hearts coming out. Giving Hearts is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll come out on March the 5th, which is your dad's birthday, Hal Wing's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It's your third book, and we're here to talk about it. And we're here to talk about, like, why all these books about giving. I think it's important, personally, I think it's important, but I don't think a lot of people understand how powerful it is, actually, to be
Yeah,
a giver.
for sure. Yeah, and I didn't really when I was younger, I didn't realize that my parents were so giving and then as I got older, I realized, I learned about some of the things that they did in their lives, and then, I kind of started doing that as well as I got older. And yeah, as you said, there's unbelievable power in it, and it's
Yeah.
so rewarding to help others. And I think if we did more of that in the world today, people would be a lot nicer and kinder. And but I was blessed to grow up with, parents that were even when my parents had not much or basically little or nothing. As I interviewed people for some of these books, they said, yeah, even when your dad was in the military, when he was in Germany, he was always sharing what he had and was helping out and different things like that. And then, of course, as he became more and more successful as they did, and the giving kind of got bigger. And but
Yeah.
they've and then growing up, my parents. My dad's mom and dad were very giving people, and that's kind of I think where my dad got it, and and my mom was really good too. Even though my mom, she grew up in Germany and they were so poor. This was during the war, and half their house got blown apart by U.S. Air Force bombers, and they were in a bomb shelter when that happened.
Right.
But they were, they were great examples to me, my grandparents and my parents, and so this next book talks about a real big sacrifice that my parents made. It starts off with my parents were 25, 26 years old, and they had 4 kids. So they had a 1 year old, a 2 year old, a 3 year old, and a 5 year old. And my dad was going to school, college, and he was working 2 jobs. And his uncle died. I mean, my uncle died. His brother died
Yeah.
in a construction accident, and their mother just disappeared. And my dad got a call and said, "Hey, this happened. If you don't take these kids, um, no one's they're going to be put into foster care. They're going to be split up.
Right.
Going to be, they lost their dad, they lost their mom, basically, and they're going to lose each other." And so my dad didn't want to do it. That was the thing that was interesting about this story. Think about that. You're 25, 26 years old. You got 4 kids, and they're all, under the age of 5 and under. And then your brother dies, and 3 more kids could come into your family. And so I kind of did the math on this, and my oldest brother that we adopted was 7, and then my parents had 3 5-year-olds, and
Jeez.
then they had a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So that was the age of these kids. My parents are really young. I mean, can you imagine today being 25, 26 years old and having 7 kids? You
No.
don't see that. You don't see that anymore. But my dad didn't want to do it. He's like, man, I'm trying to feed this family. I'm trying to get my degree. My dad was going to be an engineer. And my mom is the one, and my sister helped me with this part of the book. She was so useful and had a lot more information than I did. But she said, no, mom wanted to do it, and just kept talking my dad into it. And then finally, yeah, they decided we cannot do this, because none of my dad's other siblings would do it. My grandparents were too old, and so they did it, And so it talks about the struggles in this book, and my cousins, who became, my brothers, and my sister. They had a lot of issues too, in the way that they were raised. And so, we not only had 3 more siblings, but they had some problems and things, and we had to work through all that. And my mom used to tell me that she would get everybody in bed, and she would fall asleep on the floor she'd be mopping the floor, kitchen floor. She'd fall asleep and wake up like an hour later, laying on the
Wow.
floor, and she was just exhausted. I mean, you can imagine having that many kids and taking care of all of them. So it was a big sacrifice. That's how the book starts out, and it talks about, them basically giving everything they had to these kids, and saying, we can't let these kids go into adoption or foster care. We've got to bring them into our family. And so the book talks about
Wow.
them throughout the whole book. The story does, yeah.
You know, I mean, because I've got to do something here.
That's fine. We can
Let
keep.
me, I'm going to do this on the fly, you guys. So hang on. I got to make one correction real fast. So hold
And I
on.
can say hi to Troy. Troy,
Well, they won't hear you. So
ah,
hang on. You
they
guys
can hear us.
there'll be
Okay.
no volume for them for
So
just
the
a
whole
second.
thing we've
Hold
been
on. Hang
okay.
on. So I'm going to add that, and I'm going to watch this. Hang on. I'm going to do this really, really fast. Now they can hear me, but they can't hear you. And now they can hear you. And then I can do this, and now they can hear both of us. So there we go. They
Yeah.
can hear us now, Doug, with your books up on the screen. So, what I wanted to say, and we can definitely say hi to Troy. I see Troy and Dan Altmeyer.
Yeah.
Um, but I've been I mean, you're one of my best friends. I've read the books. We've helped with the books. I think I know all of the stories about, or most of the stories at least, about your dad and your mom and you and your siblings and everything that the building of Little Giant Ladders, which is, I mean, it was, I don't know if it still is, but the third largest ladder company in the world, by far the best ladder in the world. I mean, it is. I have a couple of them. You have a few more than I do, but you did own the companies at one point. So, but like your dad was so giving. I mean, so
Mhm.
giving that it like I just admire the heck out of that. And you are too. I know you really, really well. You've helped me and my family. I've seen you help a lot of people. But like how how does, because I know how it started. Your dad started this whole company selling ladders out of the back of a daggum station wagon, like
Mhm.
driving across the countryside, and things were tight. I remember the stories about how tight things were, but
Yeah.
he still always managed to give no matter what. And I just respect that and love that about your father, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I think, when he was first started the company, I think where he really gave was he'd give people opportunities, give them jobs. He said I couldn't even afford to pay some people, and he said I didn't pay myself a lot of times because I
Yeah.
knew I had to pay these other people. So he took a real chance on some people, like, excuse me, people that had just come out of prison, or that just had kind of a hard road in life. Gosh,
Yeah.
there was a guy and lived in our neighborhood. His name was Mike Pay. He's passed away now, but great guy. And he was mentally, a little mentally challenged, a little mentally handicapped, and he just sat at home all day. And my dad would see him at church, and my dad was saying to him one time, his mother, he lived with his mother, and his father had passed away, but I think my dad really thought about Mike, and he actually visited them at their house, and he said to Mike's mother, he says, I think Mike can come work for me. I've got something for him to do. And gosh, I'm not sure how old Mike was then, maybe close to 30. And he goes, this is what I have in mind. And so he took Mike, who was just basically sitting at home watching, wrestling and stuff like that, cartoons or whatever, and put him to work in manufacturing. And all he did all day was clean up,
Wow.
clean up, clean up, clean up. And he worked there until he retired. But talk about, someone that got his kind of self-esteem back, and he realized, hey, I can do this, I can work, and he could drive a car, and he ended up doing well for himself. And then after he retired, he went and moved to Florida with his son, and recently in the last few years passed away. But I just look at somebody like that, who my dad saw something in him,
Yeah.
and he built, like there's the sign on Little Giant that says, if you concentrate on building a business and not the man, you won't achieve, but if you concentrate on building the man, you achieve both. And so really, Hal Wing was a builder of people, and one of his unique gifts that he had was he could see people not as they would be, as they were, but as they could become. And so he would see somebody, he's like, man, that guy's got potential. And so he would take them and help them and give them a little confidence. And he did that over and over and over again. I mean, gosh, he did that with me. I mean, I went to work for him when I was 10 years old, and man, I didn't like it when I was a teenager. And we did the same thing over and over again. And my dad would wake us up really early, and we'd have to go to work and do the same dumb jobs over and over again. And we weren't making a lot of money. And I mean, but over time, I realized this was good for me. And later, when we took the company over, man, I knew every position in that company. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking back then, then I thought, oh, my dad is so smart, because if somebody asked me, why do you guys do this? And why do you weld this rung on instead of riveted or whatever? And so he was so smart. And also it made me appreciate the people that worked for us. And so, and that came back to, you know,
I,
and he did that too, yeah.
I had. I'm not gonna say I'm sorry for interrupting because I did that on purpose. Um, I, I hate it when people say I'm sorry to interrupt. You literally
Hey,
interrupted
this
on
is your
purpose.
show, buddy. This is your show.
No, it's about you, dude. But I had the unbelievable great fortune of coming to Utah and hanging out with you. I think we were there 3 or 4 days or so. I don't remember how long exactly. But you arranged for us to have a tour of the Little Giant plant, which was how many hundreds of thousands of square feet is it? 500,000 or
I
four
450 or something like that. Yeah, it's
square feet. That's and listen, I think we walked every single one of them,
yeah.
and so because like I about died by the end, but like honestly, dude, we were so I was so blown away, and here's the thing. Here's how I knew that you literally were following in your father's footsteps, not from hearing it from you. People only believe about half of what we tell them, right? but watching every single employee walk up to you and hug you, and you could see it in their eyes, the sincerity, how much they missed you, how much they loved you. I saw it, and so did my wife. We both saw it, and we talked about it later because those people loved you. And so you literally, like, you followed in your father's footsteps. You literally lived what he taught you. I saw it, and I got to experience it. And to your point, you literally knew every single part of the whole process. Like, you're like, well, this machine does this and it does this. And I'm thinking, how do you know all this? Like, but you've done it all. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. One thing that was really unique is I only worked for one company my whole career, and it was 45 plus years. And so, which
Wow.
is really rare nowadays. And then working with your family, that's not easy either. But, there were times when, man, you butted heads with a few people and you're related to, but
Yeah.
for the most part. But my dad was so good at, he knew every person that worked for him, 400 people. He knew them all by name. He knew something about them. And he was so in tune with them. It was incredible. And so I tried to do that as well as I could, but he was really the master at it. Yeah, he was good, very good at it. And
He
people,
was good at it, but I could tell. I mean, look, dude. If I mean, I'll just say it. If you would have been not like that, like your, if had you not been like your dad in
Mhm.
that sense, um, those employees would not have come up to you the way they did. I saw it. I watched their energy. They love you, man. And so, you know, anyway,
Well,
it actually makes me a little emotional because I
yeah,
witnessed it and I saw it and I know the whole story and I'm like, it's pretty incredible, dude. Like, so you've taken, let's go back to the first book, which is Giant Success. That's the
hmm
very first book that you wrote, and you, um, it was just an idea, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, which you like to do anyway. Um, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, but like, I think I convinced you to do the first book, didn't I kind of talk you like, dude, you need to do this. Like,
yeah. There were a few people. I would say you and Jeffrey were really, because I remember when we were cleaning out my dad's house in his office, and I saw the first manuscript. It was a manuscript, and the title of it was "Ladders I Have Climbed." He was actually writing a book called "Ladders I Have Climbed." And as we're going through this, with my siblings, my mother had just passed away, so we're cleaning out the house. The things that meant a lot to me were these types of things. I said, I would like to keep this. Do any of you want it? And no, let's throw it away. So
that's right.
for
Yeah.
some reason, I wanted to keep that. And for some reason, I wanted to keep that signature stamp that I had from my dad too. And I didn't know why, but they were going to throw it away. And so I honestly, Ken, I put that manuscript on my desk, and I looked at it day after day. I mean, not I would read it. I had read through it before a few times, but I would look at it, and every once in a while I'd be like, yeah, something should be done about this. And then I'd look at it, and see it again and see it again. It was sitting on the corner of my desk. And
Yep.
then I met with Jeffrey. We went down to a mastermind thing, and I can't remember the
Yeah.
first one. I think was in Tampa, Florida, I think, or someplace like that. And I started talking to Jeffrey, and then I met you, and I started talking to you about this.
Yep.
And I thought it was kind of a joke at first because I was not a great student in school, and
Right.
but Jeffrey says, you've got to write this book. This is going to be a dynamite. People are going to love this stuff. People are going to want it. They're going to want to read it. It's going to be a good seller. And then
Yep.
I talked to you and the same thing. And I'm thinking, oh, there's no way. And I remember we'd go back to these masterminds for, I think we went, 3 or 4 years or something like that.
Yep.
It was the one that
And
was,
we're talking about Jeffrey Gitomer, the great Jeffrey Gitomer,
yeah,
by the
the
way,
king of sales, right? He's
the king of sales.
written so many sales books, over 20, something like that.
Yeah.
I remember one time, it was in the meeting too, right? I don't know if you remember this, but right in front of everybody, he told me to write the blank book, right? And
I remember.
yeah, it was like, write this book. And he got kind of in my face a little bit. And so I was like, yeah, maybe I should write this book. I started it, and
Yeah.
I started doing it, and it took a while. I stalled out a couple of times, and
Yeah.
but I got through it, and with Gil helped me, and Jeffrey
Yeah.
helped me, and you helped me, and we went through, and we got this book set up, and it turned out fantastic, and it talked
Uh,
about the leadership principles and the things that Hal did in his life as a boss, and what made it great to work at Little Giant, and
yep.
so. And the book went to number one, and I was like, whoa, these guys were right. And then I started talking to that one night that you and I had met with Mark Victor Hansen and his wife in Scottsdale.
Yep.
I started telling him some more stories. And, that night um, I'd like to do another book with you. And I'm thinking to myself, again, I was going, and Mark's telling me this is going to be dynamite. People are going to want this stuff, and I kind of didn't believe it again. And so we did it, right? And so we did another book, and we
It's
changed.
right. It's right there. It's
Yeah,
it's it's the giver,
yeah,
and we're talking about Mark Victor Hansen. You guys, anybody watching? Mark Victor Hansen is the number one best-selling author in the world with Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's
yeah.
the co-creator with Jack Canfield, and Mark is fantastic. And we went to dinner. Where did we go? I was getting ready to say, where did we go? Was it Houston's or
Houston, yeah,
was it Houston's? And we went to dinner, and Doug was kind enough to buy us all dinner, and I was sitting there. It was like Mark's like, you're gonna do I want you to do another book. I want to do it with you, and so The Giver exists now, and now here next week we have the next book in the series. But talk about a little bit, because I really I think everybody watching, if you go to, I'll put a link up so it'll scroll, but DougWingBooks.com, you can sign up to be notified when this book launches next week. But you can also, and I'll put the banner up, but you can also, on there are the other books that you can click on and go pick up on Amazon, which is Giant Success is the first book, then The Giver, and now we have Giving Hearts coming out. There it is, right there. And you can sign up to be notified on the list there via email. And there's going to be we're going to have a launch party. We're going to do all kinds of fun stuff. Probably some giveaways. Doug will probably give away a car. I'm kidding. That's a joke. Doug's like, stop
yeah,
it.
for sure. Yeah,
Doug's like a Yugo, maybe. Um, I'm just kidding, but no, we're gonna do some fun things, some signed autograph copies and stuff. So if you get, and that's only for people that get signed up on the website, by the way. So to have a shot at winning an autograph copy, and here's the thing, Doug is a giver. It's on my other desk, but I have a beautiful coin. Do you have one with you? One of your
yeah,
coins right there? I know you do. You have to. So Doug always. I don't want to say always, but I think always. Doug, you send out those coins too, don't you? A lot.
yeah. We do a few of these coins, and they're kind of neat. But this is what they look like. I got to remember where
Yeah.
the camera goes. So there's my information on the front of it, and then this on the back of this is a quote by. Whoops, I got to get my
There
bearing
you go.
by Hal
So
Wheaton on here.
you
My
might
dad.
have to read that quote so everybody can
Yeah,
see it.
yeah. This one says, "If you concentrate on building a business, and not the man, you will not achieve. But if you concentrate on building the man, you achieve both." And so, yeah, I remember Jeffrey Gitomer had one of these,
Yeah.
and he gave me one, and then I thought I'm going to get one of these, and I ended up getting a bigger one than he had, and he got mad at me. He's like, "You." I gave it to him the next time I saw him, and he goes, "You got a bigger coin than I did." And I said, "Of course I did." And they're
That's
cool,
hilarious.
but
Wow, we have almost 1,100 people watching on X right now. So thank you to everyone who shared this out. Anybody watching right now, please go ahead and share this out. We have the great Doug Wing on with us. He hates it when I call him that, but we have the great Doug Wing, former owner of Little Giant Ladders. He's got a new book coming out. He's already written two other books, Giant Success and The Giver. And now we have Giving Hearts coming out next week on March the 5th, which is Doug's father's birthday. So March the 5th is Hal Wing's birthday. He's been, he moved on. He got his promotion, what, 12, 13 years ago, wasn't it?
2012,
12,
yeah, yeah.
2012. He was promoted in 2012 and went to be with the Lord. But so now here we are talking about all of the great things your father created, and you're one of those things, and how much he gave. So talk about some of the stories in Giving Hearts, if you would. I'm gonna throw that in
Fine.
you up here.
One of the things that people, he gave some of his money and things like that. He helped people financially, but he also gave people opportunities and jobs. But one of the things that people didn't realize about my dad was that he was very gifted musically. And he developed a lot of these talents when he was younger. And then when he's older, he learned how to yodel. When we lived in Germany, he met this world famous yodeler, and my dad studied it and tried it and practiced it until he got really famous at it. Not really famous, but he got good at it. And he actually recorded his own CD. I'm going to give you one of these, Ken. He sings and yodels on this CD. He sings some
Wow.
in German, some songs in. I'm going to try to get it up on and German and English, and it's pretty awesome. He plays the trump. He played the trumpet, the piano, the harmonica, and
Do
we'll
you,
listen. And those,
yeah, dude. We need. I didn't know you had CDs of that.
yeah, and so I'm going to go to the company that did my audio for Giant Success and have them put it on YouTube Music or whatever. We'll get it up on there. But
Just have them. Just give me a CD. I'll handle that for you.
okay, we'll have you
I
do it.
got it.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so my dad would seriously. My dad had this German outfit that had one of these hats on it with a big feather.
Oh my god.
He had the straps, they're called lederhosen, and he would put on the big long socks and the hiking boots, and he would go
Wow.
to these care centers and he would sing and yodel to these
Oh my
care
god.
centers. A lot of these people had Alzheimer's. They were just old and lonely, and widows, widowers, and they just loved it. And he would do this, and he'd do it for a couple of hours, and several times a month. And here's a guy that's a multi millionaire, and he would go and visit people and sing
Wow.
and entertain them. Yeah, so he would do stuff like that too. And a lot of this stuff we found out about after he passed away, but he was just, I know that my father prayed about this every day. Like, okay, who can I go and bless today? He had to, because he was so in tune, and people would say to him, "How did you know I needed you?" And he was just in the right place at the right time. Um,
Yeah.
in Giant Success, there's a story about one of his employees that they had near their home in Mapleton, Utah. They had the canal broke, and this big irrigation canal, I mean a big one, and it went into this guy's house that worked for us and completely flooded his whole house. The whole house became moldy and everything, and they had this big lawsuit. It went on for 2 years. He had to move into a different house. He still had to keep paying his house payment,
Wow.
and he was get he this guy Mel, his name is Mel. He said, I was so down one day walking through the shop, and he said, I don't know how your dad knew this, but he goes, I was about ready to give up. And he said, your dad saw me and stopped me and said, how's it going, Mel? And he said, man, Hal, it's tough. I don't know how much longer I can keep going. This canal company, this irrigation company, they've got all these lawyers and money, and I just don't know if I can keep up this fight. This has been going on, and they're just trying to get me to quit. And he says, your dad reached into his pocket, his shirt pocket, a nice dress shirt, and he said, unfolded a check that was already made out to me for, I think it was $20,000,
Wow.
and said, don't give up, Mel, keep fighting. Now,
Wow.
how on earth did my dad know that day
Wow.
that Mel was discouraged and was about to give up, and he had a check with his name on it? I don't know how he knew these things, but he did, right? And so he was just in the right place at the right time, and he did this over and over and over again. It's incredible.
I remember and I bring this up. There's a couple of stories. Hey, there's Victoria. Hi, Victoria. I remember, the story about the couple. We have 1,761 people watching right now. That's so awesome. Thank you guys for sharing this out, especially my friends over on X that have shared this out. There's a lot of people watching on X right now. In fact, 1,779 people are watching on X at the moment. That's crazy. But one story, the couple in the car dealership. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Tell that story. I love that story, dude.
Yeah, my cousin told me this story, and he said that my I think my dad had him follow him over there, and maybe he was dropping his car off, or my dad was, yeah, he was picking my dad up or something. And he says, "Hey, come over to it was called Washburn Nissan. This was in Orem, Utah, a long time ago when or it was called Datsun. Remember when they
Ah,
were Datsuns? Yeah, and then later they turned it into Nissan. But he said, "Hey, come over here and pick me up." And so he goes over there, and my dad's talking to Mark Washburn, the owner, and Mark, introduces him to this couple. They're at his desk, and he says, "Hey, they're getting their first car. They're just got married, or they're getting married next week or something." And he introduces my dad to him. My dad shakes their hands, and he says, "Oh, you're getting married. Wow, that's exciting. This is your first new car." And he says, "Hey, whatever car you pick out, I want to pay for half of it. And I hope you have a very nice marriage, happy marriage, all this stuff." And he just tells Mark, just as soon as they pick out their car and you get the total all worked up, just let me know, give me a call, and I'll have somebody bring a check over for half of it. This was two people that he didn't even know. So that's
crazy.
the guy he was. Yeah. And he paid for half their car. But
That's just that. I mean, that is. I can't, you and I've talked a lot about this off camera, just one on one, but never seen a hearse with a luggage rack. Like you're not, you don't get to take it with you, and it's almost like when you live your life like that, where you're just like your dad is an example, and you're an example of that. But when you live your life like, and I'm trying to be an example of that, but it's almost like you can't outgive God. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like you can't like the and I know your dad didn't and you don't give, he didn't give, I don't give expecting anything in return from God, but it's almost like it's I don't know, maybe not a test, but it's like like he knew intuitively. Like I mean, when the man died, he had like 50 or 60 cars, and they weren't cheap cars. I
yeah,
mean, there were some Rolls Royces and Bentleys and stuff in there, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. There is something to, and again, we don't do it because we think we're going to, we're
Right.
expecting something in return. But I have found in my life that the more I give, whether it's my time or my talents or, my resources to people, that, man, it just comes back to you more and more and more. And it's unbelievable. And besides, it makes you feel, the fact that it makes you feel so good to help other people, that you have the resources, the abilities to help others. And my dad used to say, he would say, "This money that I have, these things that I've been blessed with, are not mine. And when I go to the other side, when I get to where my next place is," he says, "I have no doubt that God's going to ask me, he's going to say something like this to me: 'Hal, I blessed you with a lot of things. What did you do with those things?'" And he says, "I'm going to have to give an accounting for that." So that was kind of cool. He would talk about that often. He'd say, he's not going to say, "Hey, wow, how you had 4 houses and you had 50 cars." He's going to say, "Who did you help, right? Who did
Right.
you bless? What
Right.
did you do with the resources that you were blessed with?" So that was kind of the mentality. And that's the way that we were raised is, what, this isn't really ours. You got to give back and help people. And so we
Dude,
had,
there's over 2,000 people watching.
I see Victoria's on there. I haven't seen her or heard from her for a while. And then Joe Ingram. Yeah.
Joe, is that the latter guy? Yeah. I love, there's a story, and I think it's in the first book about how the company was literally barely hanging on. Your dad had not, I don't know if he had retired, but you went, or you guys, I don't know if it was you and your brother or you and whoever, but went to to your dad for basically a loan to start the infomercial. So anybody from the, I don't know, the, what was that in the 90s?
Yeah, yeah,
So anybody from the 90s that used to ever, if you ever watched television ever in the 90s, you saw Hal Wing on an infomercial probably selling the little giant ladder, and he demonstrated it and flipped it around and did all, and so but that the company, what, I don't think it was doing very well, was it? Just barely kind of hanging on.
yeah. This was, we made a mistake, and we learned from that mistake, and that was that we just kind of kept like the same ladder, and we didn't innovate, and so eventually our patents ran out, and competitors came out and knocked us off at half the price.
Yep.
We had dropped below $20 million in sales. There were people that went to my dad and said, should we leave? Should we go work somewhere else? And he goes, well, you can go somewhere else if you want to, but I'm not going to. And he goes, we're going to get through this. I mean, that's one thing about Hal Wing, that he had such positive, energy. And he was like, we're going to make this. He always said, we will make it. Well, we've always made it. We're going to make it. And so somebody came up with the idea, hey, let's do an infomercial. But the problem was, at that time, they were $1 million to do it. We did not have the money. The bank wouldn't give us the money. And so here we had a great product. We thought, we think this can work, because when we go to a trade show or a state fair and we demonstrate it, we have a crowd, and we will just be multiplying that crowd by millions, right? By doing
Yeah.
it on TV.
Right.
So my dad says, okay, I got a deal for you guys. I will literally leverage my farm that's paid off, and I will give you the $1 million, but I want the money back in 6 months. And he says, I want $10 for every ladder. I'll be on the infomercial. I want $10 from every ladder that I sell on this infomercial. So at that time, we were doing about 400 ladders a day. And they did this infomercial, and the minute they turned that thing on, it was a huge success. And we were doing 4 10s a day. So they were building ladders, 4 10-hour days, and then they had 3-day weekends. Excuse me. So they ended up going 6 days a week, 24 hours a day. And they went from 400 ladders a day to 7,000
A day.
So,
a day.
A day. So do the math at the $10 that my dad got on every ladder that was sold.
Wow.
Times 7,000 ladders.
$70,000 a day.
And then you times that by 30 days a month. And
holy mackerel, dude. No wonder he had 50 cars.
So anyway, but the cool thing about this was, Ken, is he actually started this little fund. This is how the Wing Benevolent Fund started. So Hal could have said, oh, I'm going to buy this, and he bought a few things, but he started this fund, and he started helping people with that fund.
Yeah.
And that turned into after my dad was gone, we created this Wing Benevolent Fund, kind of like a foundation, and he would go around helping people. It was just incredible. And so,
Yeah.
and then we had to hire a bunch more people, obviously. So it was a big economic impact positively into the community, where we were hiring all these people and helping them. And then people were getting the greatest ladder in the world. And we learned from that mistake too. We started innovating. We had to, and we became a better, stronger company. And Hal was leading the way, So yeah.
Do you know Pat Hazel?
I've heard the name, but I don't think
Pat and Jeffrey Gidim are really good friends. Pat's a friend of mine. He's been on the show many times. He was the first writer for Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh, very
And
good.
and the last. I mean, he was there with Jerry Seinfeld as him and his writing partner were the first two to be hired by Jerry Seinfeld, and he worked.
Thank you, Pat.
That's crazy. Hey, Pat, how you doing, brother? Good to see you.
So bad or
and
last in the world. Yeah, that's cool.
there's Patricia Gigich, world famous artist. Patricia, we have 2,361 people watching right now live. That is crazy. Wow.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you to all my friends on X who.
I know they're your friends, because I don't have that many friends, Ken.
Well, I know I share a couple of them that have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers that shared this out. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember. Dan mentioned this. Tell that story. Remind me of that, of your dad giving away one of his Porsches.
Okay, let me tell you another one that he gave away 2 Porsches. So Um,
Wow.
okay, so I'm going to tell you a new one. So he had this really neat. I think they're like a 356 Porsche. They're the old ones that look kind of like a tub. You know, those
Okay. Yep.
had one. They're kind of round, and I think that's what they are. Jerry Seinfeld would know. He loves Porsches. My brother would know, but my dad had two of those. He had a convertible and then one that was a hardtop, and they were at a charitable event, and the Miller family was there, from the Jazz that owned the Utah Jazz at the time. And so my dad went to the people that were running this event. He said, "Hey, I'm going to donate this beautiful Porsche. I have this old Porsche, and I don't remember how much they auctioned. They did an auction on it,
Yeah.
and the interesting thing is Larry Miller's oldest son, Greg, ended up buying the car. This is now this tells you the Millers, they're big. They were big givers too.
Yeah.
They help millions of people. I mean, they are literally, they give away millions of dollars, and so Greg Miller bought this car and gave the money. So my dad donated the car. Greg bought the car and gave, and of course everybody went crazy. The price of the car was, elevated, and it sold for a high amount. Greg gave the money to Honoring Heroes Foundation. And then he turned around and gave my dad the keys back to the car and said, "I'm
Oh
giving
my.
you back this car." Yeah. And so he says, everybody, was a winner in this deal. Hal got to keep his car.
Wow.
He donated it. Greg bought it, donated the money. That was,
Wow.
I think the one he's talking about was during the tsunami in the 2000s when my dad had a Carrera GT Porsche. Not a Carrera, it was a GT Porsche, the supercar, that were very rare. And those are selling for over $1 million now. I think they're close to two now. But my dad had one of those and donated it to our church, gave it to him and said, "Hey, I know you guys can sell stuff and auction stuff off. Please auction this off, sell it off however you guys want to." Gave him the
Wow.
keys to it and said, "Take all the proceeds and help the victims of that big tsunami that was in the, what was that, in the East, I think, the in the eastern part of the world, Middle East, or not Middle East, but in Asia, I think, or something like that." But anyway,
I don't. Yeah. I don't think the Middle East gets tsunami.
no, they don't get,
I don't know.
I think it was in Asia or someplace like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wiped out. It killed like literally many people and homeless and all that stuff. But anyway, it was really cool. And that, so he actually gave away two of his cars. But the one thing that's neat too in this new book, Ken, is that my dad even was good to his people. I would say some of his enemies and those that mistreated him. And one of the really neat stories in this book, if we have time, I'll tell you the story because you've heard it
We
too.
have plenty. We have as much time as you want, bro.
My dad had a relative growing up who was very abusive to him, cruel to him. I mean, physically, verbally, mean to him. And he was so mean to my father. And then later in life, this relative developed MS, was bound, wheelchair bound in a home. And I remember my mom and dad were going on a mission for 1 or 2 years to Germany, a church mission. My dad says, "I have an assignment for you. Get in the car." And he'd do that sometimes. We drove over to this place, and here we are in front of this care center. We called them rest homes back then. And
Yeah.
we walk into this place, and my dad's got a little brown paper bag. We walk into this place. My dad checks in. We go there, and I see this relative of ours. And I remember the stories about how mean he was to my dad. And my dad was so nice to him. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And my dad knew he liked Diet Coke, so my dad smuggles the Diet Coke in, gets a straw for him, and he inhales this Diet Coke. And then I saw something, Ken, that I couldn't believe it. It changed my whole life. My dad starts talking to him and telling him how handsome he is and how, he's just such a good person. And this guy's all disheveled. And my dad goes over and washes his hair in this sink. He wheels him over in his wheelchair and he washes his hair, dries it off, and he puts some cream in his hair and he styles it. The whole time he's talking to him, he's like, "Man, you're a wing. You're so good looking," and all this stuff. And the guy's smiling, and my dad, and he hadn't shaved for 2 or 3 days. So my dad takes him razor and he's shaving him and he brushes his teeth. And the whole time he's just building this guy up. And I'm thinking, this guy was so cruel to you. And I can't believe you're doing this. And so we get in the car and my dad says, "I come here as often as I can to do this. And I'm going to be gone for a year or two. I want you to go and do this and take care of it."
You.
Me.
You.
Yeah. And so at first I was like, man, I know how this guy treated my dad,
What?
And so it was hard for me, but I
Oh,
went there and I took the Diet Coke and I helped him and I shaved him and I found that as I did this, Ken, it changed me. It changed my heart. And I became a better person. And here's my dad teaching me by example. And then he says, I want you to do this for me. Will you help me do this? By the time my dad came back from my mission, I loved this guy. I
wow.
developed a love for this guy who was so mean to my dad. And I was like, man, my dad was so amazing, just the things that he taught me by his example and by people that were so rude to him. There were people in high school that were so rude to my dad. He had really bad skin and acne and made fun of him. Later, they came in and to Little Giant, and these people that were so cruel to him. And you know what? My dad actually gave them jobs and stuff. And I was thinking, if
Wow.
somebody was like that to me,
Right.
I'm not, get out of here. I wouldn't be mean to,
Right.
like, I'm not hiring this guy, but he was so forgiving. He was the most forgiving man I ever met, and it was incredible. Yeah, he was unreal.
You know what though? You are like that. You literally just described someone living, not talking about, but living the life that Christ taught us to live.
Yeah, did you see Dan's comment? Dan Altmeyer, look,
Yeah. Yeah.
put that up there. It's so true, It
Yeah.
was like, I mean, Christ is being scourged and mocked and spit upon, and he goes, gets nailed to a cross, and he's looking down, he's saying, forgive him, Father.
For they know not what they do.
The very people that did this to him, right? Incredible. And so,
Dude,
and
I'll bet when your dad said, I want you to do this, your first thought was, Dad, have you started smoking crack? Like,
yeah,
what?
I just noticed that. Wasn't her name Sandy Archer? That's Sandy
Yeah,
Archer
Sandy Archer. Yeah.
that got married, yeah, or changed her
Yeah.
name. That's
Hey,
cool. Hey, Sandy,
Sandy.
I haven't seen her for a long time
I
on.
know. We miss you, Sandy. Pat
But
Hazel says, wow, I would have given him a free ladder to frustrate him.
well, the thing is, here's another
So
cool
funny.
story from the book, the new.
Excuse me.
My dad was so
Dude, hold on. We have
wow,
2,707 people watching live right now.
yeah,
Holy crap. I'm taking screenshots. This is crazy. This is the number one biggest live stream I've ever done.
very cool. Thank you,
Wow.
Ken. So I want to
So
tell you another story that impacted me as a teenager, right? So this is in the new book. I got my driver's license. I was so excited. And we growing up, my dad and I and my brothers, we rode dirt bikes. We rode and raced dirt bikes, motocross. So it's a real nice day. My dad says, hey, in a couple days, we're going to go out and ride dirt bikes in Utah. And so we go out, we ride dirt bikes. We've got a Ford Bronco with a big enclosed trailer we're pulling. And my dad's driving like a maniac. And then for those who knew my dad, he would always drive fast. He was always one ticket away from losing his license. He loved speed, whether it was a motorcycle, a horse, or a car, right? So we're speeding going back because he's in a hurry. I got stuff to do. And we're on a 2-lane road and we pass this sheriff. Sheriff flips on his lights and turns around. And my dad's going fast. So it took him a while to catch up to us. So my dad pulls over and it's got a one bench, right? Okay. My dad says, hey, he looks at me and I'm 16. I just got my license. My dad looks at me and he goes, hey, trade places with me because if I get this ticket, I lose my license. And so and I'm like, man, what if this? I'm telling my dad, what if this police knows that I did it? And he's like, just keep your cool. So the policeman comes to the thing and he's like, can I see your license? And do you know how fast you're going? I said, no, I don't know how fast I'm going.
you're like,
I
because
give him,
I wasn't.
yeah, I give him my dad put his baseball hat on me, to make me look like him. And I kind of look like my
Yeah.
dad. So anyway, I get the ticket and my dad, as soon as the police leaves, my dad's like, let me drive, So he gets back in and we drive home and we eat our dinner and stuff and we go to bed. So here's the best part of this story. My dad comes down the next day and he said, hey, I am very sorry for doing what I did yesterday. I was wrong. It was dishonest and it's not right. We're going to go, you and I are going to go this morning. We're going to go see back in those days, it was the justice of the peace. They had an office in their homes. And he says, we're going to go see the justice of the peace. It was on the ticket, the guy's name.
Yeah.
And I said to my dad, we're both going to jail. Man, that guy,
Yeah.
he's going to have a red bat phone in his house and he's going to go, police. I was so scared. My dad goes, just just be calm.
A
So
red bat phone. That's hilarious.
special phone. And for
Oh
those
my
young kids
God.
watching, we actually had phones that plugged into walls
Right.
back then. But so anyway, we go there, and my dad, he says, "What can I help you with?" And he shows him the ticket. He says, "Hey, we got this ticket yesterday." But he goes, "I was deceptive. I had my son switch places with me, and he got the ticket because I was going to lose my license." And I'm watching this judge's eyes, I'm thinking, "Oh, he's going to pick up that phone any minute."
Yeah.
And he's looking at us, and my dad says, "I'm very sorry. I know it was wrong. I was a bad example to him." And this judge kind of leans back in his chair, and I'm thinking, "Okay, here it goes." Um, is the
You're
trial.
like, take me now. Where's the cuffs?
And he leans back and he says, I think everybody here has learned a valuable lesson. Let's just forget this whole thing." And he just
Wow.
tears the ticket up. And
Wow.
and so we got back in the car, and my dad said, "You see, son, that it does pay to be honest.
Yeah.
I should have been honest. I should have taken that ticket. If I lost my license, so be it. I could have had somebody drive me around until I got my license back." But that was one of the things my dad was completely honest, and he had integrity. He made a mistake, and he undid it, and it taught me a valuable lesson. That honesty pays. So that was kind of I was scared at the time, but it was a good lesson.
Crazy, man. That's
Yeah.
just it's unbelievable. What's even more unbelievable is we're almost at 3,000 live viewers right now. That's crazy. Um, that's actually no, the stories of your dad are way more unbelievable, man. It's crazy. My favorite story, which I don't think is in the new book. I know it's in the first one. Is the gentleman that was working and was there was an accident, industrial accident, and he ended up having half his leg blown off or something, and the guy ended up having an amputation. Do you care to share that I know you've shared it several times, but I love that story, man.
Yeah, it's a great story. And the thing is, again, Ken, it goes back to how did he know that he
Yeah.
did that day? So when, when I first met Steve Curtis, he worked for Little Giant. And after my dad passed away, I was interviewing people. And I didn't know this story. I didn't know how he came to work at Little Giant, but I knew he had this prosthetic leg. And so as I'm interviewing him, and his wife was there, they were both seated at their house. She said, "Steve, you've got to tell him the story about that Hal came to the hospital to visit you." And so Steve goes, "I got hurt in an accident, and Hal came and saw me." And she goes, "Steve, that's not the way the story went." So she's told the story, and she
Right.
said that she's told it, and with emotion, great emotion. I mean, by the time the story was over with, all three of us are in tears. But so Steve was working for another company there in Utah Valley, the Provo area, and he was working on some machinery that something happened on this pretty large press or machine or something, where it something blew up, and it sent shrapnel into Steve Curtis's body, into his chest, pieces and different things like that, and hit his
Wow.
arms and different things. But one big piece broke off and hit him right below the knee, and almost severed off his leg completely. So they take him to the hospital. He's in shock, obviously, and their main thing that they wanted to do is try to get him out of this shock treatment and get him stabilized so that they could look at these wounds that he had and other, the serious wounds. So they do this, and Vicky, his wife, says, "We're in the hospital. We're in emergency room," and she goes, "I look up, and your dad's in the room." Now, if you've ever been into a trauma situation like that, try walking into a hospital and just getting into the ER when something like that's going on. You're not getting past security, right? She says, "I don't know how Hal got in there, but here he is." And he's there, he's comforting us. And so Hal comes in, my dad comes in, and she said a minute later he leaves the room and comes back in, and nobody, of course, paid attention to Steve because his what happened was there was all this soot all over his face and arms, and they weren't concerned about that because they were trying to stabilize him and figure out what do we have to do next. And so she says your dad goes and gets this washcloth with soap and water and gently washes his face down and his arms down and says to Steve, kind of leans down and whispers to him, and he says, um, well, first she said, how did you get in here? And he goes, that was easy. I just told the nurse that Steve was my brother. Okay, so he washes his face after that, and he, on his way out the door, because it's serious. I mean, they're basically saying, hey, how'd you get in here? You got to get out of here. And so he leans down and tells Steve, whispers into his ear, and she heard it, Steve, you really are my brother. And when you get out of here, you're going to come to work for me. And he leaves. Well, they had to amputate his leg right below the knee. And so, of course, Steve was discouraged. I mean, he told me I was depressed. I was so depressed. And he says, I thought I'll never work again. I'm just going to go on disability and I'll be done. I'm done working. And so here's another thing that's amazing is, first of all, how did Hal Wing know that he was in that hospital? Now, the second story is related to that. The day he walks into his house, his wife's pushing him in with a wheelchair, and he's saying, I'm a cripple. I can't work anymore. The phone rings, and guess who was on the phone?
Hal Wing.
Hal Wing. Now, how did he know that he was coming home that day? And Vicky answers the phone. Is Steve there? Yes. And he says, Steve, this is Hal. When are you coming to work for me? And Steve said to him, Hal, I'm sorry, I can't come to work for you. I lost my leg. I'm not worth anything. I'm not valuable to you. And Hal said to him, can you answer the phone? He goes, absolutely, I can answer the phone. He goes, good, you're working in customer service. When can you be here? And he goes, well, give me a couple weeks. And so he came to work for us. And he worked there. He got it, his leg was fixed with a prosthetic, but he actually worked there for the rest of his career and retired from Little Giant. But then Steve became one of Hal's little angels that, and that's how Steve says, well, I went and did all these special projects for your dad. Your dad would find out people that needed things, and then I would go do it. And so he had people that worked for him. My cousin was one of them. He said, I went to probably 40 or 50 people's houses and gave them stuff and from your dad, and he wanted it all done anonymously, and that's the way he did things. But I mean, think about Steve Curtis and his self-esteem. He could have sat at home and watched TV too and done nothing, but Hal put him to work, and he gave him his worth, right? His self-worth and his self-esteem. And he could do something. And so that was what Hal really did, was build people. It was great.
It just that is one of my favorite stories. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many stories, and so the book that is coming out next week on the 5th of March, and for anybody watching, first off, we're over 3,000 live viewers right now, which is just unbelievable to me. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to everybody who's shared this out. This is powerful, and these books are life changing. I promise you. But the main one that we're here to talk about is the Giving Hearts book. The Giving Hearts book is the book that comes out next week, and that is on March the 5th, which is Hal Wing's birthday. And if you go to DougWingBooks.com, you can sign up to be notified. And if you're on that list of people who signed up to be notified, well, then you're automatically in the running for some book signed author copies that Doug's going to be giving away, along with some other things that him and I are going to talk about. But that you'll be in the running to win some of this stuff. This series of books, these first two, the giant success that, I'm so grateful that, me and my wife got to help you with that one, and then, we're helping you push the word out about these other ones. But this newest book, what do you think? What is it that you think, Doug, that people will be able to walk away after reading this book? They'll be able to walk away, and what will they be able to apply to their lives, to their businesses, to just to life in general from reading this book? What do you think they'll be able to gain in life from reading this?
Well, and when I wrote the forward to this, when I wrote the, was it prologue? Yeah, is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
And Chad Lewis does the forward in this book, and he talks a lot about this too.
Who's Chad Lewis for anybody watching that doesn't know?
So Chad Lewis played. He was a tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, not this year, of course, but
Yeah.
he played for the Eagles, and he actually played for Brigham Young University, and he worked for Little Giant um, when he was going through school at BYU, and so he was building ladders and things like that. And he said he would really like to come up to my dad's house and do work for him up there, but they became very good friends. And he just said, "Your dad is one of the most giving people I've ever known."
Wow.
But I think that really the bottom line for this book and all the books I've done, as you go and look at my parents' lives, is that it really is better to give than to receive. And that's the message that I kind of wanted to these books to give to the world, is that, as you give to people, um, of course, you're blessing the lives of others, but as we talked about earlier, you will be blessed as well. Not always in ways that you think you might be, but um, you're blessing people, and they're blessing your life too. And I find that the more I give, the more I help people, the
Yeah.
more I serve people, the more I try to do anything I can to help people, and just being nice today. My wife, she says, everywhere we go, you talk to people. You talk too much sometimes. She said, going into
Wow.
we go into no, but she's smiling about it. We go into Costco today, and I'm talking to everybody. And we saw this lady, and she was from the Philippines. And Heidi says, "I think she was from the Philippines." And so she was. We were driving out of the parking lot, and I pulled over, and she, "Don't stop, don't stop, don't talk to her." I rolled down my window, and I said, "Ma'am, are you from the Philippines?" "Yes, I am." "Mabuhay," I said to her, and then I said, "This is my wife," and I introduced her. And we're smiling, and she smiles, and have a great day. But the more that, I don't know, we live in a society today that, my gosh, people are so rude in driving. Just people are not, most people are just not nice today. It's, we're just, they're too busy to talk. I don't know what it is, but I like to, to reach out and help people, and just even to say hello and learn about people, and to try to just be a kind person, a good person. And I
Yeah.
think we need more kindness in the world. We need more givers, whether or not you have money or not. Everybody can give up their time. People can volunteer.
Yep.
My wife and I, we went a few months ago and went to a homeless shelter and fed them. We fed these people at a homeless shelter, where they come in one night and they get these portable showers, and they let these people come in and have a shower and have a meal and sleep there, and then the next day they have to move on. And we did that, and I mean, and they said, "We encourage you to sit down and talk with these people." And those people that are in those situations are just like us. They just have had some problems, and they just have had hard times. And so it's wonderful to do things like that. But I just had the best parents in the world.
Yeah.
They gave with their resources, they gave with their time, they gave with hiring people. Again, as we talked about, I mean, I remember a story, Ken, really quick. My dad, in our church, my dad started the ladder company. He was gone over 300 days a year. And our bishop, he's kind of like a pastor. Our bishop came up and had a big meeting with my mom and dad and our whole family. And he said, "Hal, you've got to give this crazy idea about the ladder company up. You need to be home with your wife and kids and get a regular job." And 6 months later, that bishop was working for my dad as a sales all over the world. But
Wow.
he just gave people opportunities.
Yeah.
And he didn't give them, just a free job, a cushy job, but he gave them opportunities. But he saw something in people, and he built people, and it's incredible. It's just incredible the
And
way.
he had such a high standard for quality
Oh yeah,
and not just in the ladders, which obviously, you know, rumor has it that if you have a really high quality ladder that people are using, you actually can save lives and minimize the risk of getting injured
yeah.
severely.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't know this, but every day in the U.S., someone dies from falling off a ladder.
That's
So
crazy, dude.
my
Wow.
dad would say, he would say, every ladder that goes out of this place has got my name on it, and it better be the highest quality. And we were so
Wow.
fortunate. We never lost a lawsuit in court ever, ever. Because, and I attribute that, a lot of it, to the quality. We overbuilt things. We were not going to cut corners. And
Yeah.
there's no way with Hal Wing. No, it was do the best you can and
I,
make it the
I
best.
think that for the 3,156 people watching right now, the message is when you set a higher standard for yourself and everybody around you, you literally do make the world a better place. And a lot of people may go, well, yeah, it was easy for Hal Wing to go out and give. He was, had $100 million or whatever. He had all this money, and it's easy to give when you got all this money, but that wasn't always the case. And when your mom and dad were 23, 24, 25 years old, and they took on your cousins because I mean, they weren't making a ton of money, from what I remember. They were living right there on the freaking edge of bankruptcy most of the time, probably, with all those kids and mouths to feed.
Yeah, when my dad first started the ladder company, he said I would have a quota every day. And he goes, sometimes it was only I had to sell 15 or 20 ladders. And if I didn't sell that many, he goes, I was busted. I was broke. And he goes, I
Yeah.
didn't come home. I did not come home until I sold 15 ladders that day. And of course, I told you the story about the one-armed guy. And seriously, he goes, I got referred to a guy that had one arm. And he goes, I had to sell one more ladder. And he goes, I'm talking to this guy that has his arm's gone. And the guy said, if you can convince me that I can operate this ladder with one arm, I will buy it. And
Dude.
we were both on the ground, me and this guy, and he called it wrestling with the ladder. He goes, my dad goes, I had to put my arm around behind my back, and he goes, I was using my chin, my
Oh my
knees,
god.
and he goes, my shoulders, and he goes, I convinced the guy, and he bought the ladder,
Oh
and
my
so I could go
gosh.
home, and that's a true story.
Oh my god.
Wrestling with the ladder, but my dad had drive. I mean, he was just
Yeah.
not quit. He used to say, when people tell me something can't be done, I'm ready to go. And so the worst thing you could ever say to my dad was, it's impossible. We can't do this. And he would say, okay, get out of my way. So he was just incredible. I mean, there were so many times we had our back to the wall. And like I said before, people were like, we're done. We're finished. We're out of business. My dad's like, maybe you think so. Go ahead and work somewhere else, but we're going to make it. And he believed in himself and in our products. And that belief went out through the whole company, and I think gave all of us confidence. In fact, he would say, people would be like, man, so many people are copying us. And he goes, listen, as long as people are copying us, we're doing something right. The second, he said, that people stop copying us, we better watch out because we're going to be out of business. So he was like, I don't care if people copy us because that is the greatest form of flattery. He
Wow.
was, he was, he was just, yeah, he said, we need to be confident about that.
And these books that you've written, including the newest one coming out next week, everybody, the reason DougWingBooks.com is scrolling across the bottom is you can go over there and sign up to be notified when this book launches next week, and it automatically enters you into a receiving a chance to win some really cool stuff. I don't know, at one point, Doug was giving away some ladders here and there. I don't know that he'll do that again, but he was giving away some little giant ladders and autographed copies of the books. And really,
We may do that again. We might do a couple
that
ladders.
was fun, man. That was a lot of fun. Sandy Archer, who's watching or was watching, she's one of the people that won a ladder, and there's a bunch of people that
Yeah, and
were.
I think we'll do some of that, and I would like to give away like the whole set as well. I think we'll do some sets where we do all three books and stuff. And but you got to, like we talked about before, right? You got to go on and register.
You gotta go register at DougWingBooks.com. Go register. Get a chance to win. Well, a ladder apparently.
Yeah, we'll do.
Um,
We'll maybe do some king combos again. Yeah, look at Dan Altmeyer
I
said.
saw that. Hey, if he's giving away a Corvette, I'm first in line. So just zip it, Dan.
Hey, Dan, the check engine light went off mysteriously, so
No, it didn't.
there's hope for that
A
thing. Yeah.
brand new Corvette and the daggone thing. It's
But
crazy,
then the next
man.
time I drove it, the light went off. So a guy came out today and he checked it and he said, yeah, it was like a transmission indicator, but he said it was cleared before at the dealership. So I don't know. It's still under warranty. It's still brand new, so we'll get it all worked out.
That's crazy.
But
Wow.
yeah, and so we'll do maybe we'll give away a couple of those King combos again. Those are pretty nice ladders.
Those are great ladders. I use mine all the time. Love
Yeah,
that ladder. It's amazing.
yeah. Thank you, Ken. And on the 5th is when we're going to be doing
Yep.
some live events. So
Yep.
we're on
And
twice with you and with Mark Victor Hansen too. Yeah.
that's right. So you're going to be live with Mark Victor Hansen. You're going to be. I mean, dude, there's just so many great things that are coming from this, and Doug doesn't know it yet, but he is going to write a book about something else. But
Yeah, there's Ken
we'll
and
see.
Mark Victor Hansen are saying you got one more in you, and this is
You
what it's
got at least one more, dude. Honestly, I think the next book is probably going to be the book that you really, really, really. Oh, look, Eric, leave it up to the brother that wants the OJ Bronco. What's that all about?
I have a Eddie Bauer white Bronco that the license plate is
Excuse
a
me.
tribute to OJ. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's been all restored. It's a beautiful vehicle, and people get a kick out of that thing.
Yeah, Eric, it'd be cheaper to give you 2,000 ladders. So,
That
Sandy says here, I was lucky to get one the last time. I was scared of heights and I used it last year to hang lights in my backyard. Oh, that's so awesome.
yeah.
See,
And
that's awesome.
you remember the guy? I can't remember his name, but he was on Fox News. Remember when one of my books came out and hit #1? I was in the same category as this guy. He was the teacher on in Ferris Bueller, and he said Bueller, Bueller. You remember that? Okay. Well, anyway, he's a Fox News guy now, and he was in the same category as me. Remember, I would call you like every week and say,
Yes, what was
beating this guy's name. I'm beating his book because his book was in the same category as me. And I was so blown away because this guy is really famous, and
yeah,
I'll have to look up his name. But
I think it's
I was beating the teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and
crazy.
for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I can't. I think it was Giant Success. Yeah, is what it was maybe. But
Yeah.
it was pretty funny, you know. And there were times I'd be driving down the road and I'd be like, I'm beating this guy.
Darlene, you are watching the live version. You are not watching the replay. We are live.
Oh yeah, Darlene, how you doing?
Hi, Darlene.
Oh
So
yeah, Ben Stein.
Ben Stein, that's right.
Yeah, remember that?
Yep, I remember.
He's
Wow.
authored several books, and he's a pretty smart guy. And so I was like, at least I can say, you know what? One of my books kicked Ben Stein's.
Yeah, wow. That's
I just remember Bueller. You know, yeah, Bueller. Why is it so quiet, Ken?
I was doing a screenshot. I had to mute it.
Okay.
3,285 people are watching us live right now, dude.
Very cool. Very cool.
The #1 biggest live stream I've ever done. Thank you all for sharing. This has been amazing.
Yeah.
Doug, you're awesome. Love what you're doing. Love your heart. Love the books. Everybody needs to go to dougwingbooks.com, get registered to be notified when Giving Hearts comes out next week. And if you're on that list of people who've registered at dougwingbooks.com, you will have an opportunity, it sounds like, to win possibly a ladder, a King Combo Little Giant ladder that Doug will be shipping to you. And you'll win. There's going to be chances for the box set of all 3 books. There's going to be chances to win just an autographed copy of Giving Hearts itself. We'll put together some packages. Doug and I'll talk, and you know, he may have to bust open one of his piggy banks, but you know, we'll see if we can do some.
You might have to go back to Uber, Ken.
Doug's gonna start doing Uber Eats at night just to pay for all this. But
Oh, I did Uber, Ken, when I retired, just because I did it for fun.
you did what?
I drove Uber. I did it for, and Robert, my business partner. I mean, I thought I told you about this. So
I
I
did not know that.
really nice Ford Fusion. I'm kind of bored, and I want to. And I would talk to everybody. I did Uber, and it was so much fun. And I would take people to the airport, and people and Robert goes, "They have no idea that you're successful, and they don't even know who you are." And
Oh my God, dude.
I'll have to tell you, yeah, I drove Uber for like a year, and it was fun. It was so much fun.
Okay, well, Doug's gonna be your Uber driver.
No, I don't do
Uh,
it anymore. But
just know that your Uber driver used to own a several $100 million a year company. Like, oh
yeah,
my
I
God.
took a guy one time. There was a guy that worked for this Porsche place in Utah. And we start talking, and he goes, Wing. He goes, "Do you know Art Wing?" And I go, "Yeah, that's my brother." He goes, "Oh, he comes in and buys all these Porsches from us and everything. He's one of our best customers." And I know he's looking at me like, this poor sap. He doesn't have anything. He's got to drive Uber, and his brother's doing so well and has all these Audis and Porsche. Anyway, it was funny.
Oh my God. And his brother has to drive Uber.
It's a true story. Yeah.
Doug, you are a trip, man. I swear, everything I learned, I've known you for how long? Since 2018, 19, somewhere in
Before
there?
then, because 2020 we did the book, but we were doing all those masterminds.
Oh, that's right.
Probably 3 or 4 years before that, maybe close to 20.
Wow.
16 or something like that. But anyway, yeah, Uber was fun. I mean, it was like
Jeez.
because
And I
people,
didn't even know you did Uber
yeah,
all this
people are
time.
like, what did you do for, do you do this full time? I said, no, I just do this for kind of to pass the time. They're like, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I've done a little bit of real estate, and I've done a little bit of working for this and so anyway, in manufacturing, anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. Did you have any bad people?
Oh yeah, you get one guy in Utah has you can't have an open container. I took this guy in West Valley. It was kind of a wild, sketchy part of town, and he had me take him to the liquor store, and he got like a big bottle of whiskey or something. I don't know what it was. Of course, I don't drink, but he
Yeah.
picked it up, and I told him, "Hey, if you don't close that back up, I'm going to have to kick you out, bro, because I
Yeah.
pulled over and I could get arrested for this." So, and he got mad at me and everything. I said, "No, you either can get out and walk right now, bro, or you got to." You can't drink that. And so anyway, he put it back. But then I
Wow.
had like a couple kissing in the back and everything. It wasn't anything serious, but I was like, I hope this doesn't turn into something. It was just, you just get
Yeah.
weird stuff like that, where
That's funny, dude.
it was kind of fun. It was fun. I mean, most of the people you'd be business guys taking them to the airport and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I was real nice to people. And this little old lady, I'm not kidding you, Ken. I was real nice to her, and she said, "Well, I don't have any tip to give you or anything. Would you wait right here?" And she went in her house and she gave me like $2. Anyway, she was like, "You're one of the nicest guys I've ever met." Anyway, it was so sweet. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Jeez. You waited?
Well, she said, "You gotta wait," and so, I mean, she said, "Just please wait for a second." And then she came. I didn't know what she was gonna give me. A
You're like, let me squeeze this old lady for $2.
bottle of water or something. But anyway, yeah, it was just. I mean, she was like, "Oh, you're so nice and everything."
That is so awesome, dude. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
I like talking to people, and it
I
was
know you do, man.
really fun.
It's freaking awesome. Holy crap. Man, I mean I sit here and I keep doing these screenshots because I'm just blown away. We have 3,348 people watching live right now, dude. That's just
Well,
mind-boggling to me.
as we finish this up, I guess my invitation to everyone is think about ways that you can help people today,
Yeah.
tomorrow. See if there's somebody you can help, whether it's by buying them lunch or
Yeah.
giving them a ride somewhere or helping them and give them a chance to do something. But start giving more, and you are going to get more. I know that's true. So
It's true. Malachi 3:10 through 12 says, "Bring the whole tithe and offering into the storehouse.
Mhm.
Test me in this way, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and
Yeah.
pour out so much blessing you will not have enough room to store it all."
Mhm.
I live my life by that, and I know you do, and I know that your dad absolutely did. And there's so many stories, and we could stay on here all night telling stories about what your dad and your mom taught you and what you do. And
Mhm.
what I would suggest is that everybody watching go to DougWingBooks.com and get signed up. You'll have a chance to win a ladder. You'll have a chance to win some books, a box set maybe. Like you'll everybody's going to have a shot at this. So go over to DougWingBooks.com, get signed up. The new book, Giving Hearts, comes out next week. The Giver and Giant Success are already out, and they have been out for a while. But Giving Hearts is the newest book coming out. It's going to be amazing. So go over to DougWingBooks.com, get signed up. And Doug, I love you, dude. Thank you so much for this. This has been a blast having you on tonight. And
I'll be
you
back. Yeah, in a couple days. Yeah.
and in the infamous words of, or in the famous words of Hal Wing, you are my brother. You are.
Exactly. We're
Appreciate
all
you.
brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. So
Okay.
Um, everybody have a great night. Doug, don't hang up on me.
Okay.
Everybody have a great night. Go get signed up to be on the list to be notified next week. And we will see you guys again. We'll be on live on the 5th. We'll be live several times. We might even pop on before then just to do another quick promo to get everybody ready for the 5th. So, but anyway, all right, listen, everybody have a great night. Doug, God bless you. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you,
we will
Ken.
see you all later. Have a great night. God bless you all.